What's going on, Pizza Fam? Welcome back to the Pizza King podcast. I'm your host, Tyrell, and you already know every week we're taking a deep dive into the real life, real world, behind the scenes world of running a pizza business, from leadership to operations and all the stuff that nobody else is teaching you. You already know my goal. I'm just trying to help you build a better shop, one episode at a time. Today's episode is no different. And trust me, if you ever bought a POS system or you getting ready to buy a POS system, then you know how overwhelming the whole process can be. You got slick demos, Zoom calls, flashy features, everybody promise you the world. They can solve all your problems just as long as you sign this contract. How do you know that you're making the right decision when you're buying your POS? So I brought in two guys, Eddie LeBon and Joel from Thrive POS. And before you ask, no, this is not a sales pitch. You can, no matter who you decide to go with, these guys just want to help you answer some questions before you go down that road. And look, Eddie spent decades in the restaurant business before switching over to the tech side. And Joel has been installing systems in restaurants with his hands like for years. So these dudes know what's going on. They understand it. They've seen it from the great to the absolute horror stories when it comes to an install, and they didn't hold back. So enjoy this episode. Let's get into it. What's going on, Pizza Fam? Look, I appreciate each one of you for listening to this show, listening to this episode. Before we get back to it, I wanted to tell you about my favorite product right now, Todd's Curry Sauce. I met these guys at the Florida Restaurant Show, Pizza Tomorrow Summit, and I'm telling you, ever since I tried that sauce, I have been putting it on everything in the shop. Chicken wings, pizza, you've seen the pizzas, chicken sandwich, salad dressing, like we've been putting Todd's curry sauce on everything, and I'm here to give you a special deal, special offer. Go to their website, toddscurrysauce.com, use code Pizza King, and get 10% off your next order. I promise you, you only need to try it one time. It's going to be the best curry sauce you ever tasted in your life. You're going to start putting it on all kinds of stuff in your shop, even at home. I got a bottle in the pantry here at the house. I got a bottle at the shop. Elliot, Todd, I need another bottle because I'm putting it everywhere. I'm putting it on everything. So go check it out. Use code Pizza King and get 10% off your next order. Peace. Let's get back to it. All right. Welcome back to Pizza King Podcast. I'm your host, Tyrell. Every week, we come here, we talk about pizzeria operations, restaurant ops, team building, leadership development, all of the great things that help us run, more profitable, more efficient, just more fun shops. Today, I got two very special guests. Really, I think what they do is important to what we do. And we met out in Vegas, decided that we wanted to put this together. And I think you're in for a treat when it comes to, learning about what these guys are doing and how they can help, operators just like you, just like me, run our business more efficiently and more profitably. So please, Joel, Eddie, introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Joel, you want to go?
Sure. So I am the product owner of Thrive POS, which is a point of sale system that is specifically designed for pizza restaurants. What the product owner does is I work on the development team, and I kind of schedule development and prioritize development. I also have a background of doing installations of our point of sale system. For about 5 years, I did the on-site installations for any new customers. So I was going into the building, I was ripping their old system out, putting the new system in, and training everyone how to do it. In that, I did a lot of, learning about someone's business, learning how our tools can fit their business, and kind of taking the dry template and making it their own, along with just restaurant experience in general. Through college, I've always worked in restaurants. You can't keep me away. Even when I went and got an office job, you can't keep me away. But yeah, that's a little bit about me, what I do here, and my background.
Very cool.
Okay, I'm Eddie LeBon. I got to first say that Joel's completely underselling himself, because just his description of what he does and what he's done with our company. Obviously, he's got the nuts and bolts from all different levels. So he's certainly a go-to person in so many different aspects. For me, I'm in new accounts, and I've been with our company now about 12 years, following about a 20. at all different levels. It was with a corporate restaurant, a big box restaurant with multiple locations. I think we at one time had about 250 locations. And again, started from serving, bartending. I did opening units for many years. I did a bunch of those stores, got to travel around, then went into direct operations. So got out of that, and just by chance conversation with somebody who said, "Hey, you should come work for us." And that's what led me here. And it's been a great experience. Learned so much, getting to see a really different aspect of the restaurant business from operator side. How I viewed point of sale and technology is completely different, obviously, now than how I view it now. Certainly getting the other view of it. But so far, so good. Really enjoyed it. I love talking restaurants. I love talking to operators of all different sizes, one unit, multiple units. It's great having that conversation. That's what kind of makes this job fun. Is just, we were talking about our little time in Vegas. We got to meet up with our customers and had a little fun too. Had some fun, not going to lie. But
A little bit.
a little bit of fun, but that's a great part of the job, just getting to meet everybody face to face and sharing stories. And just like Joel said, so many of our employees have restaurant experience. So not only in their other previous jobs, but now with so much we've done in operations, installing, and moving forward with point of sale.
I love that. As an operator, I love knowing that there's experience on the other side. Someone who can, understand what I'm trying to come across and what I'm really trying to accomplish with it, because we know what we want as an end result. We don't always know the path to get there, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you got to be told there's no path.
That's scary too.
Because so many, people come in, they go, oh, I got this vision, and you're like, okay, you've never worked in a restaurant before. Let's kind of back it up. Let's do it step by step. There's things that got to happen first. Yeah, people come in with some great energy ideas, and you kind of got to get them, level them. Say, hey, we've all done this. We know what you're going through. Slow it down a little bit, and we'll talk about real world operations.
Yeah, I think that kind of leads into the first question that I have for you guys, and it was, as someone who's been on both sides of the table, both of you, which is great. Now that you're on the tech side, what do operators not understand the most about choosing, not only POS, but just technology solutions in general?
I think one of the biggest things that is tough to understand is that, this is going to, if you don't have a point of sale, you're a brand new operator. I mean, this is the heart of your business. This is where you're going to get every number. Every time you're thinking about your business and the money that you're going to make, we're referencing the software, right? You're referencing all the software around you, be it, an extra service on the side or be it your main point of sale. And just looking at it it's a very serious obligation that you're taking, because it's not only for you and personally, it's like I need a system. Now, you're not just picking a cash register. You can go to cash register, you can go to Staples, and they're $200, and you can go get that. You're getting something that your employees are going to work with every single day. You're going to work with it every single day, and your customers are going to work with it every single day. They don't know it, but I mean, how many times do you walk into a restaurant and for any business and they say, "I can't. The system's not working." The stupid system, and it's a way bigger part of your establishment and your business than you probably imagine. It's a huge decision, and it's a huge undertaking to make sure it's going to reflect your business and all the tools that you're using. How do you want to be perceived by a customer? Part of that customer experience is software that you're using. And I think people don't realize how big of a chunk of your customer's experience and your employees' experience. It's not just you. It's not just, I want this because of this reason. Everyone's getting affected by it, Everyone's touching your software, even if you don't realize it. Your customers, your employees.
Are there things that customers can do to better include their POS decision as part of the planning process from the beginning?
I would say if you're picking a point of sale, try to, get a referral. Try to go to another restaurant that's using that same system. And, if it includes online ordering, place an online order and put yourself in the shoes of not only, me as a business owner, or how it looks, how the customer is going to interact with it. If it's a loyalty program, sign up for someone's loyalty and be that customer, and take the $50 to place 2 orders with someone to really vet that decision.
Yeah, so all the things Joel just said, for me on my side, when I'm entertaining the thought of a new customer, all those things, everybody comes to the table with different experience or different ideas, and there are some people that don't want to know. They don't. I mean, you do some closes where you don't ever see a demo, right? And you say, no, you really need to see a demo. No, I'm good. I like what I heard. I like what you said. Let me just buy it. And I'm like, no, you need to see this. And just like Joel said, that point of sale becomes a part of your whole business, and it's got to be an integral part of your connection to your customers, because it's a center, but you can't let it take away from the customer interaction, but it's got to enhance that customer interaction. So you can do that with a point of sale, a good point of sale that has a lot of features. You can create a dialogue, especially in this particular segment, because our segment, pizza segment, is very different from full service restaurants, because you can, there's so much going on in a full service restaurant, but with pizza, especially when it's focused on pickup and delivery, it's just a different flow for customers, right? We interact with the customers differently. So that point of sale
we go to their house.
Yeah.
You go to their
You're going
house.
to their house.
We go to exactly.
You want them to invite you to their house.
And they're calling you directly more times than not, and you want to be able to, just the idea of being able to call their name up and call them by their name and repeat an order very quickly, give them rewards. So this is really the only segment that focuses on rewards, and loyalty is a big part of pizza.
Yes, sir.
More than any other. I mean, of course, everybody wants to do a loyalty. Everybody wants to reward their customers, but pizza kind of had it going long before everybody caught up, right? It was always about meal deals and coupons and customer databases. But I'm not even sure we answered your question. Did we answer your question? We just
I think so. Listen, it sounds like you said, make sure that you get a referral, talk to someone who's done it. Don't buy something sight unseen, because chances are you're not going to get what you really wanted. Understand that there's a lot of different points of interaction between yourself, the customer, the team, with your point of sale system. So you need to understand how all of those play into your overall experience.
Check.
Okay. Just making sure I got it. And look, for everybody listening here and watching, full disclosure, I am a Thrive POS customer, and I have been for a very long time, but that is not why we're here today.
Yeah, the deal was made in Vegas when we were having a few drinks. Why we're here today, right?
We were having some drinks. We just said, listen, we have to teach more people, because I stood there on the show floor with these guys for an hour plus, and watch you guys do demos and take people through, show them the kiosk, and see the kind of questions that folks are asking and answering, and that you're answering. And I thought it was important to take this to a larger audience, because you can get out to these shows and you can do these events, and at some point, these shows are so big, you may or may not ever walk past that booth, right? And you don't get that opportunity. And there's so many different options, so many different things out there. So I just, invited these guys on to just talk about what it's like and how you help a customer make a decision, whether it's Thrive or any other POS. We're not here to place one above the other. We're just trying to help folks make better decisions in that process, because it is so important. And you're absolutely right.
A great point there. When we're doing those trade shows, it's obviously very important for us to get new contacts. But, when we have our customers come visit us, that's even better. Because oftentimes with not just our point of sale, any point of sale or any program you have, sometimes you're not using all the features.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really great to talk to someone and they say, I'm having a problem doing this. And you look at it, well, if you just open this up and go here, you can solve your problem. And they didn't know it was there. So it's great to have that conversation, whether it's marketing or something. All of a sudden they open up, oh, I've had that ability. Yeah, we talked about it before. I know you're busy. You got all those things going on, but your point of sale can do more. Just about any point of sale can do more than probably those operators are using it. There's more capabilities there.
I've lived that. And actually I got to thank you, Joel, because you actually got me my Sales Builder password, and you got me set up on Sales Builder.
No problem.
however many years ago that was. I was years late in using it, but we've caught up now. So
excellent.
Thank you for that. So
no problem.
In doing that, you talk about features that folks use or don't use. What's what questions should operators be asking POS companies when they're at these events, or you're on sales calls, or you're doing demos? What should they be asking?
Well, again, for me, I'm either talking to someone who's buying a new location, whether they have experience or not. So it's sometimes I have to guide them to the right questions because they don't know. Make sure how is your restaurant flow, and that's kind of really the basis when you're selling something. You got to ask questions and let that person tell you, here's my restaurant flow, here how things are going. But having them talk about it's very important to let them kind of guide you, but you got to inform them of the capabilities. Sometimes it's hard to get pull that out of a person. We kind of touched upon this yet when we were talking before about how a person who has been running a restaurant for 30 years, they know exactly how to do it. Period. You can't. It's hard to kind of interject something. Well, if you did something a little bit different. And then there's people with no experience at all, and they come in and they have their idea of this magical idea of how, because I was a lawyer, I love pizza, so I quit doing the lawyer. Now I'm gonna put a pizza oven here, and I'm gonna make so much money, and it's gonna be so easy.
I bought a franchise.
Yeah, or a franchise or something. But I'm using my mother's recipe for sauce, and this is going to be the easiest money I've ever made in my life. There's so much there to go to kind of wrap into trying to guide someone to the answers. It's hard.
Yeah, I'd say the big ones are, you should get your head wrapped around the credit card processing. That's always part of the conversation, and
Absolutely.
who you're going to go with, and what that charge is going to be, and just vet that as deeply as you can. It's always going to cost something, but there are so many different models that you can go for that are, some people are completely hands off. We don't touch your credit card processing, but you got a huge monthly payment now, versus some systems are basically free, but you got a huge percentage on your credit cards. And as you grow, that's a parasitic relationship versus the one that doesn't touch it at all. That's a great relationship if you grow massively. And if you're kind of in the middle, maybe you should find somewhere right in the middle, that's got a good rate and a good monthly price, and, fully vetting those figures, because that's all going to factor into it, along with, obviously where you're choosing a POS, you're going to vet the technology. You want it to look good for your customers. You want it to look good for you, and you want it to be easy to use. And you want it to be easy to use not only for you, not only for your current employees that probably don't want to switch a system, that probably don't want to learn a system.
Not if they've been doing it one way for a long time.
Yeah. So it's got to be easy for your old heads. It's got to be easy for your brand new 16-year-old first job. Stick them in front of a cash register in the middle of a fire. They got to be able to pick it up within 2 or 3 orders. And it's got to be good for your customer. You got to pretend to be your customer and say, "Would I order here again?" And kind of put your own branding in your head on all the materials you're getting. And
I like it. Man, I hadn't even thought about the credit card processing and how much that really does play.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
And it is something that, you get caught up in. It could be something that's so easy, or something that sets you back weeks if you're not ready for it. Great point. That is a great point, because if you're not ready, or if you got to go through a gateway, or you got to you want a third party, is that a mistake that folks make? You come in and say, "Look, I'm with Bank of America. I've been with Bank of America my whole life. I'm staying there." Should there be flexibility in that decision?
So the evolution of point of sale is kind of to a point, we had some players come into the market and really kind of set the stage of how it's going to be moving forward. And that is connecting the processing with the point of sale. There are great advantages to that. Some may see there's disadvantages to it, but with advantages, you have everything under one roof there where you're processing and your point of sale. And oftentimes, just like Joel alluded to, you can get some great deals on hardware, great deals on your monthly, but you said parasitic.
Yeah.
The relationship
Yeah. I mean, well, if you're growing massively and you have a free system and you have a, effective rate of 4%, and you don't realize that cost until the check you got to cut the check at the end of the month. You're like,
Yeah.
we're
And
more
so
successful than ever, but
Paying more for
there's a
POS than
huge
anybody
chunk
in the world.
because it's baked in your credit card processing. You're paying zero. You're paying $20 a month, but that
there are
cost is really
people that know, you
getting
can
cut.
tell the people that have really studied their credit card statements, and the ones who just say yes to a free system. Oh, hey, it's free. All right, I'll take it. And then you have the ones that have studied their credit card statements and can tell you more than you can tell them. And that's great. That's an informed customer is probably the best customer to have. But there's a lot involved, and it just like Joel mentioned a few moments ago. You do your homework. It's not. It shouldn't be a super quick decision. It should be something you spend a little time with. Sometimes you're forced into quick decisions.
Yeah.
You never know the way the business
Yeah.
is.
Some other things are like the online ordering fee structure, right? It's like you could have a monthly fee for your online ordering and it's just a service that's provided. I've seen a lot of people, a lot of companies that do like a per order fee, right? And if you don't have very many orders, that could be a great deal. You get $0 a month. Whenever you get an order, it's 50 cents a dollar. But if you're really successful, well, now all of a sudden it's $200, $300, $400 in excess of that. You could be charged $1,000 a month for just having successful online ordering and getting 50 orders a day. So that's something to be aware of. All those fee structures, just really vet them and make sure it's going to work for you.
And just so to be fair and open, it's not like we also have fair structure. We have all that stuff too. When you call us, we have to go over that stuff with you as well. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like we're not sitting here saying, hey, we don't charge anything. No, it's just like I was saying, the evolution of the business. That's the way it is. Even from when I started with the business just 10, 12 years ago, it was 100% different as far as what you were getting, what it cost. Your entry level dollars were so much higher because those credit cards weren't intertwined with the system. But now it is. But it can still benefit you. You can still pay attention to your statements, review them often, look for discrepancies, view all those things. And another thing Joel mentioned about getting references, if you're, ask them about that as well. How are your rates? How is your problem solving with your credit card processor? Do you get answers? Do you have support? Those are the same questions you ask for the point of sale, of course, about the support setup.
Has that been the biggest change since you started in the industry? Is just the way that credit card processing has been handled in relationship to hardware and software?
You talk to anybody that's been around many years, and because again, we're talking to people at all different levels, but anybody that's been around 20, 30, 40 years, they all tell you, I bought my last system for $30,000. I bought my last system for $25,000. That doesn't happen anymore. It's much lower, and
Yeah, it's getting Netflixified. Where it's a subscription service now.
yeah.
You get this.
I remember one of my first early systems, like my first Firefly, and we got you go through the process, and we got our invoice, and we did that. We were working with Mills back then,
Josh
and
Mills.
that's my guy. And it was so expensive. Paul and Keith made me run all the wiring myself because it was like, all right, you gotta do this on your own.
You can get a point of sale, but you're gonna have to do everything.
And I literally had to learn how to terminate Cat 5 back then. Had to learn how to terminate cables. We're like pulling stuff in the wall, and we did it, but to save that couple of $1,000 because we had to you had to pay for all that hardware. We had to pay for training and installation. So it was like, where are we going to save some money? You're running wires, but now it's totally different, and everything is so easy.
Another good point. I think Joel was probably just going to mention this, but the beginning, those few years back, not that many years, but it was you always went on site to do the install. And now, the software's gotten to a point where you don't really need that. But the installation still stuff. We still do absolutely offer on-site installs, but you want to save some dollars, remote installs. And we've been very successful with our remote installs. And almost everybody does remote installs now. But I just, you can talk to someone, whether it's a large system or their experience as such, you're like, you're going to need someone out there. Trust me on this one.
Like, or we're gonna have 1,000 support calls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're good dollars to spend. Having someone on site, I feel, is really good. I've been a proponent for on site. Like I said, it's kind of what I used to do with restaurants. But especially with that uncertain owner, new owner, someone who has that crew that he doesn't think is going to adapt to a new point of sale, it's great to have someone on site or a new opening. That's another great opportunity to have a person on site, because your first impressions to all those customers coming in, if you're having issues with hardware or software, you have someone from our staff doing all that stuff. Meanwhile, you're talking to your customer, you're talking to your new employees, how to handle customers, so you don't lose that first impression that's so important when you open up a restaurant.
Yeah, I like that. Can you tell us about a time where you had an install that was a total nightmare?
I can
Go ahead,
scroll.
Joel.
Yeah, I got the phone book.
We kind of
Not one of mine, by the way.
No. So, anyways, this guy Terrell.
I know about Trinity. So,
Yeah.
is there any other ones?
I one comes to mind. It was just kind of the worst experience that I've had, and I won't say what restaurant it was, but
he won't say what restaurant it was, but he will mention who sold it.
Yeah, it was.
That was me.
Yeah.
Man,
so it was an owner
Eddie.
who was completely uninvolved. They were, we give you a little bit of homework whenever we install a system, just so you have training and we can tailor the system to you and how your business runs. Everyone runs their business a little bit different. Everyone's got the secret sauce. Everyone's Pizza Hut's doing it wrong. Papa John's is doing it wrong, right? You got
We got it right.
Yeah, we got it right. And that's fine, and so we tailor the software to you as much as we can, and we configure it in a way that's going to be easier for you and easier for you to transition and blah, blah, blah. Well, none of that was done, right? Just like bought it, come hook it up. Here's my paper menu and make me a system. So, we just kind of apply the template to it. If you don't give us feedback or anything like that, and I think that's one of the most important things is like, you're always going to have homework, and if you don't, that should be a red flag to you of, place orders, look at this, review this, give us the thumbs up or not. And that's the only homework that there is, but it is time consuming, and restaurant owners rarely have any time at all. You get to do this at midnight after you've done dish because someone called out. But this guy did none of it. All right, he didn't even try. He wasn't even present for the installation, so it was just me and two of his employees. He was nowhere to be found.
He paid the money, though. He paid the money.
Check cleared.
And
yeah,
the check cleared. And these girls didn't even know they were getting a new system that day. And so there was no communication to the staff. There's no, like, we suggest that you train your staff on a demo site that we hand to you, so you can use this whenever you want. But they didn't even know that I was coming, and I swapped their system out. The check cleared, so I had to, right? And about 8 hours in, this girl just starts crying. She says, "I should have went to nursing school." I was like, I hate to break it to you, because this is all I could say. I said, I think nursing school is harder than using new iPads, unfortunately.
A little bit.
You ruined that girl's life.
Yeah. She left. She quit. She was done. Yeah, that was probably one of the worst times, is watching this girl walk out. I hope she went to nursing school. I hope she's doing great. But it will be harder than the button for build your own is in a different spot.
There's so much more he could tell, because I was getting calls I remember that opening, and you were giving me calls like, Eddie, what have you done? What have you done? But that involvement, that's exactly that. Usually goes down the path of a install that's going to go wrong, is the customer involvement.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that now going forward? Like, how do you just force them to at least take a look at the demo?
Threats, a lot of threats.
We're not going to ship it if you don't give me an approval.
The process, I'll let Joel talk about the process. It's pretty laid out.
At some of the, we have checks and balances as we're going, and if we have enough of a red flag that this is not going to go well for you, we will, highly encourage a push, right? And even if you have the best of intentions and you just don't have internet yet because you were waiting on this permit, and now that got pushed because this permit has to be in place. Your hood can't be inspected. You can't get the permit for that until this sink gets moved because it didn't pass the health inspection, but now the pipes have to be redone. All that stuff is going on while you got 4 plates in the air, and you're also trying to schedule someone to come out and, hook up a system and train people and have time to train people. So any technology company that you're going with should be doing a pulse check and just make sure that things are on track for the timeline, having a clear timeline, having clear expectations up to this point. We don't want to, we're not going to rip your POS system out if you don't have a credit card processing solution set up, right? That sort of thing. So we do have checks and balances that we try to adhere to as best we can to avoid that. But if you're just totally disengaged and you want it in there really badly, I mean,
That's usually the one where they say, I got to have it in 3 days, or I gotta have it now.
And picking technology is not a 3-day operation under any circumstances, unfortunately.
What is the normal timeline or the preferred timeline when making that decision?
Preferred timeline when I'm going through the sales process, I tell people 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
We can certainly move faster. And those are questions people ask me, and responses. Okay, when a project manager reaches out to you and gives you a plan, stick to the plan. Just like Joel said, we know where you should be at these different points. So that project manager needs to keep you on that, and it involves your participation. If they say,
and that's tough, and anyone would understand that. You got 50 million things going on, because you typically do, especially if it's like your second store that you're opening. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine the stress. I would not choose it for myself, all the moving pieces, but there is homework typically involved in getting new technology in general that you should try to dedicate time to, anticipate a
Understood.
That's we've had instances where, someone's left our company to, we got a shiny new toy. We're going to install this other point of sale, and all those things Joel just talked about, how much of how hard that is. Okay, that's one thing. And then they'll call back in about 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah. So that has happened.
Still have it all. Could you turn it back on?
Yeah. Well, and sometimes you got to get all new stuff. I'm actually going through that kind of right now. So now you're changing point of sale. It's like 3 times of this, like the wiring and all the other stuff, and getting hardware. Are they compatible? Are they not compatible? So that happens quite a bit, more than you think. Changing so many times.
Yeah, it's something you want to consider really carefully, because it's part of your whole ecosystem. If you are switching POS providers, you're switching all. If you have any kind of customer loyalty in place, you can switch that customer loyalty too, most likely. You're going to switch the whole experience for everyone. You're going to switch your online ordering. You got to go on your website and swap out, your links, and redo your marketing, and redo.
It's a lot.
Tons of stuff. It's very seeded into what you're doing day to day.
That restaurant that Joel was talking about, which will remain unnamed, I remember it was the employees kind of revolting on the change, right? It was like a full, like the whole staff.
I was calling
just
like
saying,
they
refused to do any. They wouldn't touch.
They're going to.
It was
rip
installed.
This out.
Yeah, it was installed. They weren't touching it, and you want to call the guy and say, you have more problems.
Get down here. Yeah,
you have more problems than just a new point of sale. Your employees are running your business right now, and you might want to visit your restaurant a little bit.
Wow, that's scary from an owner standpoint, because I know, without even knowing who this person is or what that brand is, he had to think that he was making a decision for the better of the business, right?
Yeah.
He thought that he was buying a solution and a tool. He just didn't do the right homework, and
ultimately
communicate
there was some struggling with ownership. That's all. We don't have to talk about that. Yeah, we don't want to talk about them anymore.
I'm just thinking, like, just from a mindset standpoint, you try to do something good, and it just totally turns to a pile of whatever.
And in that case, I mean, they could have picked any. It didn't matter what system they picked.
Yeah.
It was
It's like they thought a system was going to solve their problems, but really, it's like it just kind of put a light on your
I
problem.
think it was
Yeah.
the owner and the sister were battling, I think, and they were co-owners, I believe. But the idea of when we go through the process, and we've talked a lot about what we have with experience, you want to almost kind of coach in a way as you're going through the sales process, but it's a fine line because you don't want to overstep either. It's like, you remember us talking about the Pizza Expo, because you meet every pizza maker I meet makes the very best pizza in the world. And that's the same thing. Every pizza owner I know runs the best restaurant, right?
That's right.
So you just got to do this fine line of a little bit of coaching, sure, but don't cross over that line. But use my experience, Joel's experience, and just about everybody that works here has not only gained that experience from working with only pizza restaurants, but just their experience in restaurants. But that's an important piece of knowing when to coach and when to step back and when to threaten.
Like, listen, do you really want what you think you want? I totally I understand that perspective, and I think it's important to have that relationship when making a decision that's so impactful. Um, one of the other things that becomes a part of the process, as from a buyer standpoint, is we get overwhelmed with features and bells and whistles.
Mm-hmm.
What's important and what's not important?
Wow, it's different for each person, right? It's different for each restaurant. I'm trying to think about what you guys, your setup. When you're talking about order types and customer flow, everybody's going to have something a little different, and they come to you and they have these problems that you think you can solve. That's when I call Joel and say, Joel, this guy wants to have everything print over here, and but it's hard to figure out what's the most important one, because it's a little bit different for each person. Each person has a way they do their boxes, where they put for their delivery. Do I set the boxes like this or like this, or you know do they, Joel, there was other examples like that, just
Yeah,
little things.
there's tons of examples of what's the most important, and that's different for everyone. What's the most important? But really, it should just be a weighing of like this. Whenever you choose any software, whether it's a point of sale or some other company, DoorDash, Grubhub, etc., all the auxiliary products that come and that may provide value, right? It's making sure that that value is worth it, and that you can see a real return on investment, and that return could be money. That return could be not spending money anymore, plugging a leak of money you were spending, or it could just be a headache, and you're just solving a headache. It's a great software Advil, and make
Software
sure that
Advil.
that's
I hadn't
yeah
heard
make
that one. I like
Yeah.
make
that.
sure that that's
I hadn't
worth
heard
it.
that one either. Let me write
Yeah,
that one down. Put that down.
make sure that that's a worthy investment. Is the price that you're paying worth the headache you're losing, the money that you are making, or the money that you're not wasting anymore?
So
And it might be all three. It's a trifecta that you have to kind of balance and say, I want the perfect balance of these three. This one's a little more of a headache, but it saves me a ton of money. I make a lot of money. But this one solves all my headaches, but it costs a lot of money. So you're doing that, triangulate that sweet spot for you. Um, and when you're looking at features, I think a lot of people buy a system or buy a product just based off a feature, like that one feature, and then they are totally blind to everything else that's going to change with it. They put the blinders on that one feature and then don't even think about, okay, how do I handle when everything goes wrong, when the internet dies, and when there's a storm and I have to turn my online ordering off, and you know call the support line and make sure someone answers. Make sure a person answers the phone when you call. And you're not
matters.
getting an AI chatbot, someone that you can describe your problem to and they answer, at least, if you leave a message, they call you back immediately,
So many of those things is you're going through that. So many of those things in the sales process for both sides, for my side and a customer looking for a point of sale, whoever the point of sale is. You got to ask questions. You got to listen to answers, because you don't want to you're just listening for what you want to hear, but you got to listen for all the whole answer. Just like when I'm talking to a new customer, I'm asking questions. I need to hear everything they're talking about. And I may have to go, no, explain that part again. So you want to have no surprises when it comes to the point when it gets to installation. Just like Joel said, you focus so much on one feature that you didn't realize all these other things don't match your business. So for my process, asking a lot of questions, getting those answers, communicating to the next person in line for in our company, the project manager needs to know all those things I heard in that demo, and that owner, that new purchaser, needs to make sure they communicate everything. Because I know Joel's probably gone to an install, gets there expecting it to be like this, and then he gets there and the owner says, oh, by the way, I have a patio that's 150 tables, whatever. It's something crazy like that. That would have been good information to have before we did this.
Oh, he told me I could keep my old printers. I don't know what IP means.
But I had tons of times where you show up and like, oh, we have waiters and waitresses, and we're doing table service. We need to handle that. It's like, that's a whole nother, a separate part of our software at least, and it's like well, we need to train you on that now because we gave you all the materials for everything else.
Yeah, you gotta ask questions, definitely.
I would say, you're gonna find the feature that you really like, and you're gonna be caught by the bells and whistles. But you got to take a step back and just think about all the times that you're interacting with your software, you, your staff, and your customers. How often do they interact with the software? Like, get a log. Like when you're on a diet and you start writing down all the food you eat. Write down all the times you touch your software, be it directly or indirectly, and then try to do that with whatever new solution you're using.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, also, just what Joel said, I used to talk about a program when I was in operations called moment mapping. And so the idea of that, and I'm just recalling that off right now, so I'm going to see if I can get it all. Your customer has experiences and they come in and they touch your business in certain ways. Someone calls and they have an expectation. And their expectation is someone's going to pick up the phone and take my order. That's the minimum expectation, right? So can your software enhance that customer experience? Can your software take that to exceed that customer expectations? How can you do it? Well, when they call, the name pops up. I've made alerts, so now my order taker can address this customer with any kind of special need, or maybe we messed up before and we can call them by their name. We can reorder their order. We can know it's their birthday. We can know all that stuff. So now that little interaction with the customer has been exceeded because of my software. And then the next interaction with your software is they place a delivery order. Okay, they're expecting their order to come, but instead they also get a message saying, we've received your order. Well, that's great. That's more than I expected as a customer. And then when they dispatch it, they get another little message saying your order's on this way. So these little times your software can exceed the expectation of a customer, that's a great victory. So just like what Joel was saying, you see where your customer interacts with your business. Also, how does your software interact with your customer? If that software can enhance your business, if that software can make that customer experience exceed it, now you're on to something, because now you're got a dialogue going with your customer. Now there's interaction. Now you're calling each other names. Now when they go to your house, maybe when you deliver, hey, you want to come in for a quick beer? Something like that. I'm just kidding.
I'm on a delivery, but I'll come in.
You're creating a relationship.
Yes.
And if your software can, all those little times your customer interacts with your business, if it can enhance that experience, then you're doing something right with your business and your software.
Yeah. It makes me think about kind of where we are as a whole today, not just in business, but just in society and in life, where we're all pretty much connected to social media, right? And everyone's connected, and we're all seeing and experiencing the wave of artificial intelligence, AI. And I think about how are POS companies or software companies and tools going to integrate these things that have become like almost part of our everyday life? Like, I got, AI solutions for, responding to emails or text messages or, handling my inbox. I see places that have AI order takers and, answering services. How are those things, when I'm, specifically thinking about AI and social media, how are those things playing a part into the future of point of sale?
Well, that's a big question. It's probably the future of point of sale
Yeah.
in many aspects, but you you hear that in the voices I talk to. They're either concerned about it's some affecting their business in a certain way. They're concerned about how it affects their customer, the interaction with the customer. Am I going to lose that? It's just like all the things I just talked about. Am I going to lose that personal touch? However, they're also faced with the issues of I don't have enough staff. I don't have enough. I don't have quality staff. And if I can get a machine to take an order,
Yeah, I think we could have this conversation right now, and
I think we
we all
are.
have our opinions, and there's people that are diehard for it, and there's people that are diehard against it.
Yeah,
Um,
I think we're seeing it's very polarizing for sure.
I love talking to a person
Me
personally,
too. Me too.
and if I don't talk to a person, it's a negative in my mind. But I think that it's going to rapidly change in 6 months, and then in
Yeah.
another year, like this stuff is moving so fast that
Yes.
what we say now, by the time someone listens to it, is null and void. Because it's changing so rapidly and getting so much better. Like it's, I believe, inevitable that's coming around the corner and taking advantage of these. It's like you can hop on the train or get pushed over by it,
Yeah.
and I think it's coming at lightning speed, faster than phones, faster than the internet took on. It's only exponentially increasing in popularity. That being said, a lot of people don't like it,
Yeah.
but
I
I don't
think
know
I
if
think
they'll
whether
even
you
notice it at some point.
like it or dislike it,
Yeah.
understanding it is going to be important, right?
Yeah. And right now, you get a AI order taker you can pick up, and I know this is an AI order taker. No one talks like this, but soon they will. They will
Yeah.
talk. They're going to trick us. So who knows? I think that
Well,
definitely anticipate thinking about it. If you're not
it's
thinking about it
important to
right now,
note our
you're
age.
skeptical.
The
What's
ages
that?
here. The ages here. We're all. I feel like we're all rather talk to someone.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
Joel's the. I don't know who's the youngest here. I'm not the youngest for sure. Below our age, it's a kind of whole different mindset.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
see it. My kids, they have no problems, chatting with whoever they call them their digital friends, whoever their digital friends or
Yeah,
devices are to answer questions, to learn things. It has become almost normal, very normal for them actually,
absolutely.
to use it as a tool. So yeah, I get it. And then I have some applications. I use an AI chat bot for my social, like for my DMs, for my messages. And it is smart, and I'm watching it get better and get smarter almost every single day. I saw this thing make a typo and use the asterisk to correct it like a human. So that's scary for me, but it also is like that is super cool. But it's pretty wild.
I mean, if you're not thinking about it and you think that you can avoid it, I would just start looking at it and start thinking about the applications that these AI programs can do, and because it is, if you're not using it, your competitors certainly will, and that might be a negative for them or a positive. I'm not sure. Like I said, if I
Time
hear
will
the AI
time will
voice,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, are we going to come to a time where there's a mess up on my order and I think it's precious because they're actually using people? You know, like they rang it up wrong. Oh, I remember that. Think of it fondly,
but
but
it's it's
it's
out
certainly
there
coming.
already.
Yeah.
Orders everywhere, right? It's been out everywhere for a while. I'm not sure. I know we told you Joel and I are kind of musicians, but we had I think I played that for you before, the song where I did one of the AI songwriting things. I put down a few lyrics. I told it to style to put it in. 10 times better than anything I came up with. So it was scary, but that's kind of, I guess that's where it's all going.
I think there's a big portion of society though that considers that a net negative.
I do too.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand that. Yeah.
that's a net negative on and the AI ordering. I think AI is great for making monotonous tasks easier or better, right? If there's some monotonous task that you do that AI can do instead, perfect. If it's an AI order taker, that's getting into a morally gray area. I think there's arguments for both sides, and I understand them, and it's amazing. It's incredible technology.
Well,
That
I
is,
think anything to do with that's, you talked about already, we've talked about many in all these different things, saving money. But just like I said, the staffing is going to be, it's the number one issue. So all the people I talk across the country, no matter what market they're in, they're finding good people, and the amount of money they have to pay them for hourly positions is a real struggle. Not to
It is.
mention now you have food costs and supply chains, blah blah blah, everything, and it's tough. And if things like AI can solve some of those problems, it's definitely going to be implemented. It's definitely going to be implemented.
Well, just like a hammer can be a tool or a weapon, right?
yep,
So it's all about application and how you deploy these things. I find myself on the fence most of the time, well, a lot of things. So I understand the cost savings and the efficiencies that come along with it, but I also became a business owner for the opportunities that I could create
yeah,
in and around my community, not just for me, but for everyone around us. Hey, AI doesn't need money. AI
yeah,
doesn't need a place to live or
Doesn't need a
food to
break.
eat.
Doesn't need a break.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I
So
need my break.
it's one of those things. It's tough, but I'm interested to see where it goes. I just thought I'd get your take as a
yeah. And like
as
I
a
said,
software company.
we have this conversation now, and in 6 months, it's going to be a completely different conversation because we are on the, we're so past, a point of it moving toward an apex of like it's just moving so quickly and so intensely. If you know, are trying to work with it, like by the time you're done implementing something, it's out of date because it's getting better so fast.
Well, that does make your job interesting on the development side. Like how do you keep up with the speed of what's happening
Yeah,
out
you
here?
you kind of have to make a guess and say, you know,
That's exactly
where's it
right.
going to be
Yeah.
6 months from now, and just kind of factor in that we can account for where it will be, where
Interesting.
technology will be, um, and just try and shoot the arrow forward. Hope it hits a target that's moving that way.
I'll tell you one thing AI can't do. I see that 26.2 behind Eddie. You can't get out there and pound the pavement.
No,
It cannot, but it somehow in Japan they have a robot that ran a marathon.
Really?
They did, and in Japan they had robots doing room service. When I ran the marathon in Japan, they had a robot delivering room service. That was pretty interesting. That was the first time I'd seen that. I'm sure it's here in the States as well. But
That's pretty wild.
yeah,
no,
You are so you're an avid marathoner. I know when we were and I was talking to Brian and we were trying to get this figured out. You were on your way,
to
maybe
London.
London, yeah, London for a marathon. So you're running all over the world.
Yeah, well, that's what I told you. I had I'll show you some a show and tell, and I'm sorry that Joel doesn't have one of these to show, but this is when I was in London. I earned this particular medal.
What is this?
So this medal is the marathon majors, which are Boston, Chicago, New York, Berlin, Tokyo, and London. So
My
in London, I finished my 6 majors.
6 majors.
But just as I finished, they added another one.
So now you
So
got to go
now
get you
I
got to
gotta
go get
go.
the next one.
I gotta go
Where's the next one?
Australia, Sydney.
Nice.
Sydney. Then they're going to do one in Cape Town, South Africa, and then one in Shanghai, maybe.
Coolest place you've crossed the finish line.
My favorite marathon. I think I loved my Japan trip the best. I think Japan was pretty cool.
How far in advance do you need to travel in order to make sure your body's right for a race like
Apparently, I don't know.
that? You didn't
you
have been
always
working.
get it wrong.
Whatever I've been doing is the wrong way to do it because it's been all my travel ones have been terrible. All the ones in the States I've run really well, but the travel ones, I don't know what it is. Who knows? But you should give yourself a few days. Obviously, Tokyo, the travel so far, I'm in Dallas, Texas. So the travel so far, and London's 7 hours. Tokyo was 14 hours or something like that. You go into a different day. It's
It
and
sounds
you have to try the local beers. It's just it's hard. It makes it hard on you.
sounds so tough.
I know.
Sorry, you
And
had to go drink beers in Japan.
yeah, well, in London it was a beautiful weather. It's like they were so unaccustomed. The weather was sunny and like 75 degrees. So I swear every pub had like 100 people standing outside drinking beer. And I was like, what is going on? They go, it doesn't get sunny often like this. It was everybody. Every
Yeah.
place you went, you think there was some sort of party going on. They go, no, it's just sunny. Just sunny.
Wow.
So we're going to drink outside. At noon, I arrived. I was going through my hotel at about noon, and the whole city was out drinking beer on a Thursday. It was awesome.
That sure makes us appreciate the Texas and Florida winters that we get, summers
Yeah.
and winters, where it's always sunny and beautiful. Well, Joe, you got a marathon of your own coming up. Congratulations. You're
Why,
headed
thank
out
you.
for a special occasion.
I am. I'm getting married next week.
I thought you were talking about the poker tournament.
Oh, no.
He didn't tell her about that yet.
No. She'll learn about that when we win.
When you're there.
No, yeah. Having Michael Jackson officiate. Elvis will drive her down the aisle in a pink Cadillac. We're doing the whole Vegas experience.
Yo, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Hopefully you're going to take an extended break and, just really enjoy it.
I am.
Enjoy it.
Can you leave your phone on?
I will try.
Okay, because I may need
Yeah, we'll take text from you, Eddie.
Joel. I'll go like, Joel, I don't know
Oh,
how
my
to answer
goodness.
this question.
You guys are awesome. Hey, before we part, can you give, operators out there just one piece of advice when they go to look for their next, go look for their next POS system or their first POS system. Give them one piece of advice, and then, tell them to call you if you want to.
Yeah, definitely call us, Thrive Point of Sale. We've been focused on pizza our whole existence, so we feel like we speak the language of pizza. There's probably never a perfect point of sale for every restaurant, right? Everybody has a little something different, but the biggest advice I would give is just take some notes for yourself. Write down what you want. So you have special things, because it's always the question: what brought you to look for a point of sale? There's something that drove you there. So find out what your what your needs are going to be. Are there deal breakers? That's a very important thing to get out as soon as possible. If you have a special thing that you have to have, that's, for me as a salesperson, I want to know that right up front, because if we don't have it, I say, hey, look, we're not the right point of sale for you. I'd rather say that than go down a sales process of a couple of weeks or an installation, even worse, and find out we don't have something you really need. So the advice would be: take a breath, take some notes, involve your staff, ask them questions. They may have answers you don't even know exist. You may be looking around for something. They may know how a workaround already, or they may know how to do it. So get involved with your key team members, get some feedback. And Joel mentioned earlier, once you start interviewing point of sale, get references, make sure they're used to doing businesses like your business. And if they're living in that space, then they've probably dealt with same issues you've dealt with in the past, and they're there. They can hopefully address them.
Advice.
Yeah, I'd say just make sure that your provider you're entering a partnership with them, and they should want you to be successful just as much as you want to be. And I would just make sure that if you feel like you're talking to a used car salesman that's trying to turn and burn you, I mean, what that feels like. Everyone knows what that feels like. If you're not having a conversation about your business, if you're not, explaining your business in any kind of way, you can probably anticipate that they probably don't care. And they probably just want to collect the money and move on,
And they're telling you it's a decide fast.
Yeah. You should,
Got a one day only special.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're entering a relationship with your vendor because it's going to be the heart of your business. And so you should vet this person like you're going to have a relationship with them, and make sure that the support staff meets your needs, and that you have someone on the phone and you have the resources. If there's not, an immediate help, a helping hand whenever you need it, make sure that the resources look good and that all the articles are make sense to you, and really put yourself in the shoes of using that software, because it touches more than just you and your decision. It's much more than a cash register typically, or at least it should be. If it's not, you could probably go shopping. You'll find something.
Yeah, that's great advice. And, I appreciate the relationship that I have with Thrive POS. It's, we've, like I said, we've been doing this together here for, probably 15, 16 years now. And, your company has evolved. Our company has evolved. Our operators have evolved. Our needs and our uses have evolved over time. And you guys have been right there with us every step of the way. So we did not do this as a plug for Thrive, but anybody here that wants to come at least see what a Thrive system looks like, you are all invited to my place to come test out a system and see what we're doing. And we're operators that are always looking for what's next and what's new and how we can, better our operations. We've leaned in heavy to loyalty and rewards, email marketing, text messages, all these things have been a very, important part of our business, especially post pandemic, because costs are going up. All of these things matter a lot to us. So not a plug for these guys, but I can tell you that we've been solving a lot of these issues with the provider that we have. So thank you for that. And thank you for coming on and spending some time with me and just, telling us how we can be better operators for our POS provider. It matters.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.